I could learn. But question for you. This is something I guess as researchers we all have to do, is how do we bring our stakeholders or teams on the journey with us, especially if you're researching with a group that may not represent our teams. So if they're like 80 or older, whereas we work with people who are maybe under 50 most of the time. I'm making a big assumption here, so don't mean to exclude anyone, but what were your strategies on how you bring your stakeholders or help them learn the insights and understand the importance of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think sometimes as researchers, getting stakeholder buy-in can be quite difficult, especially if they've never done research before and they don't kind of understand how user research might fit in with something. So in terms of getting stakeholders on board, I think it's kind of looking at what the benefits are. And if they've already built something, then kind of just showing maybe, is it possible to test it as soon as possible? And then once you've kind of gone through that process with them, then they'll be able to see the benefits. And in terms of the insights, I think it's kind of keeping all the stakeholders updated as much as possible and included in all the key decisions, but also keeping the I guess the insights and things as brief as possible, because they're super busy, but they want to see that, you know, that you've got some really interesting findings and things. But yeah, it can, I think if there's a business case, you've shown the benefits and you're able to do some small testing and they see the benefits, then you know, that can help.
Cool, thank you so much. That all sounds really impactful. I will let Anya take it away.
Yes, I have a question from Amanda and combined with a question from me. Mm-hmm. So Amanda is asking, Chloe, were you concerned that participants dictating to you what they do in that scenario to complete a task creates a non-realistic experience? And I would actually add to that, you know, wouldn't it actually be interesting to see if a participant has arthritis in their arm, how they struggle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're both very good points. We had a lot of blockers and reticence for people to get involved in the study. We did initially say, you know, you'd need to share your screen, and you know, you would kind of take control and then we'd screen share. But that kind of seemed, it was near the beginning of lockdown, I think, and that just sort of seemed like too kind of big an ask at that point, because a lot of people weren't too familiar with the video conferencing tools at the time. So we thought, well, if we made it as easy as possible, and I know that, you know, there are issues in terms of, you know, how I guess how reliable that data might be and things, but I made sure that I did not give them any steer at all. So there just seemed to not be very many options in terms of how to do this, you know, research, where we're taking it from digital service to digital service without having done it that way, because otherwise we just wouldn't have had anyone at all. I mean, the best option would have been if we'd have been able to have like an in-person usability testing session to then see how they physically would use the technology. With the people that we spoke to, they had arthritis that wasn't kind of severe, in that it was getting in the way of them interacting with the technology. So they were still able to kind of use, you know, a laptop and a mobile phone and that kind of thing. But it would have been interesting to have seen, yeah, in real life.
Great. And this is more a comment from Susan Amos. So maybe a tip for you, Chloe, because Susan seems to be spending a lot of time at her mom's care home and, you know, surrounded by people in their 80s. So maybe, you know, maybe that's an in-person research opportunity that you could look into. But yeah, let definitely. Me follow on with a question from Imran. So really interesting talk, Chloe, thanks so much. Quick question, when you were talking to users who came from war conflict, how did you make sure they're safe, as they are vulnerable to suffering things like trauma, particularly in regards to language and how that can be triggering?
So I spent a lot of time building trust with that community, and I'd spoken to them more at social events, probably about 2 or 3 times before asking them to get involved in the research. Also, anyone who was involved in the research was accompanied by a family member or a carer, and we just made sure that they were feeling as comfortable as possible. And if anything was triggering, or they were getting tired, or they didn't want to take part anymore, then that was absolutely fine, and then we would stop straight away. But we had a chat with their carer or family member, just to make sure that if they saw any signs that they just didn't want to continue, then they would kind of tell us, we need to take a break, or maybe we should just call it a day here.
Great. Another question from Snigdha. So, people are obviously in praise of your presentation, excellent presentation, super helpful tips, and she appreciates the need for care for both researcher and the older person. And her question is, how do you navigate and build relationships with gatekeepers to access such specific groups of older people? And is social media an easier way to bypass these gatekeepers?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I've tried it on both sides of it. I think with the older people who were post-war Polish migrants, there's just no way that they would have used social media. So I went through the local church and the local community, and just spent weeks, months building up relationships with the key stakeholders there. So we had the priest, but there was a couple of people that run like the bar and community events, and there's like a mother and toddlers event, and so we're just involved in all of it for I think about 2 or 3 or maybe 4 months. So that approach does take a long time. I don't think you can really bypass it on social media. But in terms of the group that we needed to speak to for the arthritis project, that group of people was quite a lot broader. So then we were able to go through social media, because then we could say, we had like a poster, or I had a poster that I've made. I said, have you got arthritis? Are you over 60? Have you got an hour available? Give me a call, kind of thing. So that worked really well. And I think because I made it a local group, because I come from Milton Keynes, and because that was Milton Keynes based, and some people live locally, then it kind of had that feel like, friendly feel, even though it was on social media. And I think it actually sparked a debate about needing to have more support locally for arthritis. And so it started a support group for arthritis as well.
Brilliant. I have a question from Dave. Did you have challenges with privacy concerns and getting informed consent from participants, and how did you convey that to them?
Well, working with like for my PhD, and also working with public health, they're very I think having the software update notification has just come up. I think having worked with the public sector and also in academia, you have to have informed consent, and you have to have the participant information forms and the consent forms that comply with the ethics committee in academia, and also the policies in the public health as well. So I just carry that on in all the research that I do. I take that kind of more academic approach to user research, because it is really, really important that people understand why you're doing this research, what you're expecting from them, what their rights are, that they can withdraw at any time and you'll destroy their data. So I usually have a one-pager, very easy to read sheet about what the research is about, so then they know what they're getting into. And then with the informed consent, just a couple of statements about why we're doing it. Are you okay to be recorded? It will be aggregated, you'll be anonymous. that kind of thing. So they have to tick it and sign it. So I make sure that all that is in place, and then at the beginning they can have any questions they want about consent. So then we can just kind of deal with that right at the very beginning. But consent is really important.
Fabulous, thank you so much. I actually have one last question for both of you, for both of the speakers, because I want to close the loop to the last event that Rick hosted, which is, I don't know if that's, it's a bit far-fetched, but let's see. So our last event was about research with children. And I was just wondering whether any of you has actually done research with children, and what for you is the biggest difference between research with older people versus research with children, if there is any?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't done any research with children before, so I'm not sure. Vayia?
The same goes from me. I haven't done any user research with children, but I did watch the session last, I think it was in July, I think. And a lot of the things that were mentioned during the session made me think, my gosh, it is so similar. Trying to stay focused on the session and follow a script, for example, and help people to understand tasks and remind them how to do tasks, and then getting their feedback in a structured way sometimes doesn't work, and you have to be flexible and have the conversation and try to go different ways to find what they thought about the whole experience. So I found as I was listening to the session, I was really thinking, yeah, this is so similar to having remote usability sessions with older adults. And a lot of parallels and a lot of useful tips came out of that session for the sessions that I ran and I will be running in the future.
Fabulous, that's amazing. So this is obviously a call to action for everyone on this call to subscribe to our Research Thing channel on YouTube, because that way you can watch the session that we hosted in the summer and can compare yourself. Right, Sweta.
Thank you. And thanks for that question, Anya. It's really good to compare and contrast. And thanks for attending and summarizing that Vayia. I think I would probably take away the same comparison. So I just wanted to thank you both. That was a fantastic session, despite me rambling. Apologies to everyone for my rambling. I will be short this time. So just to leave you with something to take away besides our amazing talks, and I want us all to just reflect as researchers every time we're planning research. Think about why we include or exclude people, and there's definitely reasons for doing both, and just being more conscious about that, and also thinking about our research practice as well. And it's really good when really experienced researchers are sharing the challenges and coming up with workarounds and reflections and learnings, and that's amazing. So Chloe honestly sharing some of the struggles with the arthritis participant, that's really fascinating to figure out and see, how can we do that better, especially if we're doing research remotely nowadays. I don't have the answer either. But yeah, thank you. I hope I made more sense this time. Over to you, Anya.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're actually planning our first in real life event. So if you're from abroad and cannot travel to London, that's fine. We will still live stream the event. But if you're in London, I encourage you to come to Knightsbridge and visit the office of Babylon Health, because we will host an event live with some speakers from Atlassian on the 13th of October. So more communication to follow soon. It's literally just in the making or in the finishing touches. So yeah, I hope to see a few people in real life. There will be some snacks and drinks, and you can come to our wonderful offices. That's it from me.
Wow, can you imagine a real life event? Really looking forward to that. Thank you. And I think that's it. We will let you all have a good evening, and hopefully soon a good weekend. Thank you all. And thanks again to Zebra people as well as UXPA and obviously Anya and Rick. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye bye.